Sanatan Dharma in general is so diverse and it allows you to follow your own path, and Ram is one of those paths. Your way does not negate my way. Remember that we are a wounded civilization. Ram Rajya in some ways is treated as Hindu rashtra. Countries that were once welcoming migration from Muslim lands are now finding ways to shut their doors. The Muslim population of India now needs to coin a new term, which is the Sanatani Muslim.
Is an effort underway to try and project Bhagwan Ram as the one and only God? Does that at all matter?
Rahul, I don't think that can ever be the case because, Sanatan Dharma in general is so diverse and it allows you to follow your own path, and Ram is one of those paths. Undoubtedly, this moment is very, very symbolic, extremely emotional for a lot of the country, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Sanatan Dharma continues to remain a no formula faith, because we pride ourselves on the fact that there isn't a single church, pope, or holy book. We have 33 kotis, which some people say is 33 crore deities to be worshipped. And the path to realization can be yantra, tantra, mantra, or none of them. You could keep a figure of Christ or Mahavir or Guru Nanak in your puja. When you pass a temple or a gurdwara or a mosque, you will bow your head because ingrained within you is the idea that all faiths are paths to the divine. You could be tantric, astic, nastic, or any other number of, you could follow any number of paths. You can pray in your home, in a temple, at a cremation pyre. You could be vegetarian or omnivore. You could work towards artha, kama, dharma, moksha, whatever. You can follow Shakti or Bhakti. You can have 300 versions of the Ramayana. And that again is so symbolic because Ram itself, Ram as a deity, has been described in 300 different ways. And your way does not negate my way. I think that is the essence of Ram. Ram, if he is symbolic of Sanatan, then in that sense, I believe that this is a civilizational moment more than a religious moment.
Ram is the faith of India, the foundation of India. He is the thought of India, the law of India, is the consciousness of India and the contemplation of India. What do you think the Prime Minister is outside of the rhetoric in the real world? What do you think is the message the Prime Minister is trying to land?
Well, in that sense, we need to remember that the qualities that are attributed to Ram are the ones which eventually lead you to the principle of Ram Rajya. And what are those? I mean, righteous and ethical governance, equality, without bhed bhav, welfare to be paramount, rule of law, which is applied equally across everyone. And most importantly, Rahul, I think this is something which is lost on a lot of people, that what do we really recognize Ram for? We recognize Ram for his utter devotion to his parents. In other words, respect for the past. And this is something which I think sometimes gets lost on our generation, that you cannot know where you are going unless you know where you've been. So the respect that you need to have for your ancestors, for your civilization, sometimes I feel that Ramchandra ji was not given exile for 14 years. He was given exile by us for 500 years. So in some ways, we need to recognize the fact that, yes, economic progress is very important. We want social and cultural progress. We want rule of law. We want all of those things. But the bedrock on which all of that is built is civilizational pride. And that needs to happen. And it's been wanting in our nation for a very, very long time.
Swami Govind Dev Giri Maharaj spoke before the Prime Minister, and he sought to compare the Prime Minister's actions with those of Chatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Explain to our audience why Chatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, given Chatrapati Maharaj's life history, what does the Swami suggest the Prime Minister is doing or ought to be doing or seeking to do?
We need to remember that we are a wounded civilization. And I am never one of those who believes that, every historical wrong has to be righted. But just please, for a moment, think about the term collective memory. Collective memory in some ways refers to a shared pool of memories. So, for example, there is a generation of Jews who may not have lived through the Holocaust, but they carry collective memories of their exile from Jerusalem, their captivity in Babylon, and even the Holocaust. And the same collective memory applies to Sanatan Dharma. And that is where I think, in some ways, Chatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was that healing balm, where he inspired an entire generation to believe that they could live to see another day. I mean, the assaults on our civilization, I don't need to take you to Somnath or Kashi or Dwarka or Mathura, but the truth of the matter is that those blows have been very, very substantive. You can just simply visit the Quwwat-e-Islam mosque near the Qutub Minar, which proudly has a plaque which says that this was built using the parts from 27 Hindu and Jain temples. This is a population that has been bruised many times. And I think Shivaji, in that sense, is symbolic of giving us hope that our civilization will not die out, that we will live to see another day.
Several people, sadhus, sons, others from the Sangh Parivar, many of whom insisted very passionately, Ashwin, that Kashi Mathura baki hai. So it's not just Ayodhya, they're determined that Kashi and Mathura will be a part of the Hindutva project as well.
Emotions are high at this moment. But often this bogey is thrown at us that in some ways Ram Rajya in some ways is treated as Hindu rashtra, and that looking at Ayodhya, Kashi and Mathura means in some ways the beginning of a Hindu rashtra. But Rahul, the very observers who throw this argument at us, they forget that Bharat is plural precisely because it is Hindu. They forget that the framers of our constitution did not envisage a secular state in which the government would be staying out of the religious ambit. Because if India were truly secular, then donations from Hindu temples could never have been appropriated by central and state governments. Nor could Muslim personal law have been given state recognition. And nor could Waqf boards or Hajj committees have had any money or power. So what our founding fathers were contemplating was a plural society where all faiths would be treated equally. And they deliberately omitted the word secular. And that word, by the way, remained outside of the constitution for 27 years. So the question that I want to ask is that did Bharat become a Hindu rashtra during that time when the word secular was not there?
No, but why should Ashwin Bharat be a Hindu rashtra?
No,
there are people who practice different faiths, beliefs.
Precisely.
They'd rather that India not be a Hindu. I mean, of course, if Ram Rajya entails virtue,
Yes.
virtue, then those who believe should be allowed to follow those values and principles, and those who say, okay, great, thanks to you for what you're doing, and let me do my own thing.
Precisely. And that is the difference of Modi ji, because he realizes that there is a difference between your religious identity and your civilizational identity. Ram Rajya is linked to your civilizational identity, not your religious identity. This is where we make a big mistake by looking at the idea of Hindu Rashtra, or for that matter, Hindutva, with great disdain. Because what we don't realize is that Hindutva is simply the ability to put one's civilizational identity above religion, caste, language, gender. And that is what our Prime Minister understands.
You know, the Prime Minister said, Ashwin, that yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai. we have to lay the foundation of India for the next 1,000 years. How much of what we are seeing is political? You're saying that this is civilizational, you're seeking to lift this moment, say that this is about us as a people, as a civilization. These are political slogans. We have an election a few months from now. Opponents from the India Alliance will say, they're making it seem as if the next Mahatma Gandhi, the next Chatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Don't get fooled. Ultimately, it's all about politics.
In the Prime Minister's speech, there was a wonderful reference to the beginning of a new cycle of a Kal Chakra. And as we all know, Kal Chakra is the wheel of time. And the fundamental difference between the Western view and I would say, the Indic view is basically one of the West looking at it as linear and us looking at it as circular. That everything that has happened in the past will also happen in the future. Time tends to repeat itself in cycles. And he talks about the fact that this is a new cycle, a new Kal Chakra. And in that sense, I am proud that we are now looking at a time where, in some ways, we are already seeing the progress that is happening in so many different ways, Rahul. I mean, just look at Ayodhya itself. My understanding is that the entire tourism circuit of Ayodhya is going to add a huge amount of money into the state coffers year on year. The number of hotels that are coming up, the railway station, the airport, as well as the fact that fundamentally India is a devotional country. And so you're going to see people now not only flocking to Ayodhya, but to all other pilgrim spots as they develop.
Okay.
This is only in terms of one aspect, which is Ayodhya. But you now look at the entire overall economic development that is happening. So I think the difference between the words being uttered politically versus the words that are backed up by a lot of action on the ground, that makes a humongous difference. I think the reason why a lot of people are willing to accept what Pradhan Mantri ji said is because of the fact that they feel that his heart is in the right place,
okay, but
that his intent is in the right place.
Ashwin, what does this moment and this transition mean for the young generation that's watching at this moment? It's very clear that religion is not just something that you do at home, it's very much in the public consciousness, and this government would like it to be that way. What does this mean for the way in which this generation will be brought up, which will be different from the way your generation, Amish's generation, or Pawanji's generation was brought up?
If I may be for a moment politically incorrect, Rahul, the truth is that my generation was basically taught that public worship was a problem if you were a Hindu. As long as you belong to a non-Hindu faith, then professing your faith, your religiosity in public was par for the course in some ways. And I believe that it is the sacred duty of every Hindu to ensure that there is no triumphalism, that there is no sense of supremacy, because we need to convey a message of security to each and every person who lives in this country. But I want you to look around the world, that countries that were once welcoming migration from Muslim lands are now finding ways to shut their doors. The rise of right-leaning parties should be a cause of concern in Europe. And look at the groundswell of support that Trump is receiving in America. So in that way, Bharat, in its own very clumsy and its own messy way, has welcomed and assimilated all faiths through the centuries. And it has been that single glue of Sanatan Dharma that has been instrumental in establishing a plural ethos. And I genuinely believe that this is a moment where I believe that the Muslim population of India now needs to coin a new term, which is the Sanatani Muslim. In other words, the Muslim who has a religious identity which is rooted in Islam, but a civilizational identity which is rooted with India.